All right, let's get started. Half a day, everybody. My name is Brandon Holm, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Lunch Hour with Peace. This Lunch and Learn series is hosted by the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center's Prevention and Training Branch, where we chat and learn with prevention champions, hear about available resources in our community, and connect with us at peace. Right, to learn more about our branch, the free trainings we offer, and the upcoming episodes in our series, visit peaceguam.org and press subscribe on the top right of the homepage, or you can follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is peace_Guam. Once again, that's peace_Guam. Right. Today is March 17th. It has now been, I want to say to the dot, one whole year since the COVID pandemic has started. And it's kind of hard to believe that it's already been a year. To me, and I'm sure many other people, it feels like it's been a very slow, or I mean, a very fast, but a very long year at the same time. It's been kind of weird. Right? It's been everything and anything but normal. And over the past year, we've heard countless stories in the media of adults losing their jobs, losing their social plans, communication with families and support systems, and people have been going through mental health crises. However, the adults aren't the only ones experiencing hardships. Our youth and young adult population are all living their own unique stories of learning how to live and cope with the struggles that COVID has brought. And today, we are really excited to give them a platform to talk about the impact that the past year has had on their overall well being. So we've all had to learn to how to adapt, cope, and live with the changes that have been going on in our lives. But our youth and young adult population are at a time when they're supposed to be, exploring their identities and learning how to become more independent. But now many of them have been, learning from home in their childhood bedrooms, and they might be experiencing some really serious impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So they may be experiencing the loss of family or friends to the virus, or even the economic, social, and mental impacts of the pandemic. So today we are giving them a platform to share their experiences, the struggle they've been through, how they've dealt with it, and any advice they have for their peers who may be going through similar situations. I'm really excited to be here today and dig into today's topic. But before anything else, we have some reminders. First, this webinar is being recorded and can be accessed on Facebook through the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center Facebook page. Second, all participants are muted throughout the session. You may ask your questions for our speakers or any of the P staff using the Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen. Sarah is going to be, and other P staff will be monitoring our Q&A submissions. So we will have a portion towards the end of today's session where we start answering participant questions. Right? And lastly, some concepts discussed in today's topic may trigger discomfort or negative feelings from past traumatic experiences. I'm here to tell you today that you are not alone. And if you're looking for one-on-one support, we have staff on standby ready to assist you. Uh, Dr. Christiana Whitman is going to be our Keep Safe. So you can message Keep Me Safe to the panelists, and she will reach out privately to you. And if you are not comfortable reaching out to our staff, the Guam Behavioral Crisis Hotline is available at 647-8833 or 8834. Right? Now, I want to start off by getting to know our invited guest. May I ask that you all go ahead and introduce yourself by sharing your name, the school you attend, your grade level, and the organization that you are a part of. And then lastly, kind of one word to describe the past year for you and why you chose that word. So let's go ahead and we'll get started with the oldest of the bunch, Mr. Justin Dimla.
Thank you for that, Brandon. Happy day, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, I would just like to thank Brandon and Peace for having me here. My name is Justin Dimla. I am 24 years old, a student at the University of Guam studying biology. I'm in the biology pre-medicine program. I also work as a crisis counselor at the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center under the Mangay Giham program, where we provide help for those seeking COVID-19 counseling services, whether it be those dealing with financial situations, or just feel isolated, anxious, or depressed, we are here to help you in any way we can. Okay, so if I had to describe the past year in one word, it would be growth. Given that we were all brought out of our comfort zones, taken out of our daily routines, the past year challenged us to grow both mentally and physically. So yeah, growth.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and Bella, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Bella. I'm 17. I attend Penn Foster Online High School. I'm a part of Youth for Youth. And one word I would describe this past year for me has been challenging. It's been really challenging, I think, for everybody. But for me, we've all been going through our personal stuff. And although it's been challenging, it's been full of growth, like Justin said. But yeah, that's my word. I'm just growing as a person, trying to figure out life with the different circumstances that we've all had to go through in this point in the world. So yeah, challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough year for everybody. All right, and Ursian, you can go next.
Hello. Hi, my name is Christian. I attend John F. Kennedy, 10th grade. Um, the past it was challenging for my family and all of
All right. And I may not be considered a youth or young adult anymore, but if I had to choose my word for the past year, I would say it's introspection. I think we've all had a lot of time to ourselves alone, and that's really forced us to kind of evaluate our thoughts, our feelings, and really our mental state of being. So that would be my word for the year. So let's go ahead and we'll start our discussion by talking about social connections. We've all had to implement social distancing, but that doesn't mean that we had to, distance ourselves socially from the people that we care about, and still trying to maintain our relationships with our family, friends, and peers. Um, so really, we should be calling it physical distancing, right? So, how have you guys stayed connected to your family, friends, and peers during the pandemic? What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and how has that kind of affected your mental well-being?
Okay. I've stayed connected with my family and friends through FaceTime and WhatsApp. Like those apps have been really helpful to me through this past, like within this past year. It's just that's the only way I've been like able to talk to them. We're lucky. I guess you could say we're lucky to have social media now, but directly speaking to my loved ones, I've just been sending messages of gratitude and appreciation and checking up on them in that way. Um, I've dealt with like especially in the beginning of the first quarantine, the isolation was really hard, and being stuck in the house was really difficult. Um, Discipline, staying on schedule with school, we still had school to do, and it's been really hard to keep a general schedule and to keep my spirits up and have motivation to do that. And with my mental health, it was really hard in the beginning, but like I said, this past year has been challenging, but in a good way, because it kind of showed me how resilient I am in that way, and how I can figure out small ways to keep my mental health in a good place. But my mental health is good now, but it was definitely really hard in the beginning of everything.
I'm glad to hear that you kind of improved your mental health. I'm sure we were all kind of in the same boat where we were kind of struggling at the start. Some people may still be struggling, and that's okay. There is help and there is hope. So let's go ahead and we'll tag on Ursian next. You want to state how you connected or stayed connected with your family, friends, and peers during this past year?
Um, I mostly talk to them on like WhatsApp and IG.
And how is that? Like, has it been tough on you? How has that affected your mental health?
They're affecting me because I don't really talk to them online. I mostly talk to them face to face.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a great point. A lot of us, uh, youth and young adults included, usually we're used to maintaining our relationships through face to face. I still remember when I was going to school, the only real social interaction I had with my friends was at school. So I'm sure it's been pretty challenging to kind of shift away from that and kind of watch everybody through a little window in your hand. So Justin, what's your take on it?
Yeah, just to add on to what everyone's saying, given that we are in the technological age, staying connected is one of the easiest things to do nowadays, right? WhatsApp, Viber, all of them are utilized. Um, Checking in and messaging each other to make sure we have masks on at all times, or sanitizing literally anything that we could come in contact with is very important, because you always have to keep your loved ones in check as well, making sure they're staying healthy, doing their part to lower the rates. Um, for the second part of the question, one of the bigger challenges I've encountered during the past year would have to be the transition from what seemed to be the normal life we were all accustomed to all of a sudden a life restricted to certain guidelines due to the pandemic, COVID. The situation took me out of my routine, which put me in an uncomfortable position, a constant state of anxiety, leaving me wondering what's gonna happen now, what's gonna happen next, when will life go back to normal, right? But it also opened my eyes to the possibility of the inevitable, which is something that literally we can't control. We don't have any control over it. Um, this morning, I actually came across a story on Instagram, and it perfectly summed up of how it affected my, or in the past year has affected my mental state. It said, "It's been a year since we became afraid of dying, but in reality, it's been a year since we were afraid of living." So from the past year, it became prominent to me that I should always, always strive to be the best version of myself. Basically, just seeking to do better than I was yesterday and be present in the moment. For all of this can be taken from without prior notice. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think that's everybody, regardless of age and current situation, can really take from that message. So I want to thank you guys all for sharing. Before we move on to the next topic, do you guys have any advice? So it sounds like everyone's kind of doing well as far as maintaining their social connections with their loved ones, but some people still may be struggling. So do you guys have any advice for your peers?
One thing that I can say is that not everyone has the means or like a person to talk to. Like sometimes their families aren't there for them, sometimes their friends aren't there for them, which is very unfortunate. But just know that you have the resources, you do have the people to talk to. Um, Utilize what we have on island, which is the crisis hotline under Mangagiham. I talk to a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of mental health issues, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. Seeking help is not something that you should be embarrassed about, basically.
I would say don't let yourself slip in to negative emotion often, because it's really easy to just sulk and feel bad. And I did that myself, especially last year in the March quarantine. And I realized what I was doing and I wasn't really aware of my emotions. So be really aware of yourself and what you're doing and what you're thinking, your thoughts. Um, like Justin said, not everybody has someone there for them, and that's really sad and unfortunate, but you do have resources. But if you do have people that are there for you, make sure to check in with them and also share what you're feeling, connect in that way. Personally, I find that going outside once in a while, because it's really easy to stay inside and, stay in your room and just isolate yourself that way. That's not good for your mental health. So go outside, just sit outside for a little bit, get some fresh air. That really helped me. Journal. These are just personal things that have helped me, but I'm pretty sure they can help everybody else. Writing down your thoughts and getting it out there and out of your head is really helpful. So I recommend journaling, and going outside, doing both at the same time is really nice.
That's great advice. And Ursian, any words of advice for your peers? Okay, so it looks like her internet connection is having a little bit of issues, but that's okay. When it's up and running again, just let us know, okay? Hopefully you can hear us. All right, so now let's go ahead and we'll start talk about school during the pandemic. You've all had to deal with this shift from in-person to online classes, just like how a lot of the workforce for adults have had to shift from being in the office to now working from home. Then that's brought a lot of struggles for us, and I'm certain that's brought a ton of struggles for you guys. I've had this conversation with a couple people before, where the thought I have in my head about like trying to put myself in your guys' shoes when I was in school is coming home from a long day of school, and like kind of getting off the bus and going to my bedroom. That was my safe space, and that was my kind of like escape for the day. Um, and just kind of me to just kind of like reflect on like how the day's been and just make sure like I'm doing okay, and just to kind of sometimes forget about the stress and the struggles that life was at the time. And now you're being forced to go to school in your safe space. So I'm curious to see how that's affected your guys' kind of mental health. So how's this shift been for you guys? Justin, would you like to start? Or Bella, you can go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm homeschooled. I've been homeschooled since 2017, since I started high school. So it didn't really affect me much, like school-wise. It's just the same. I mean, it affected me in the way like not being able to see my friends at least like once a week. Um, Going out like that, going out to the like a mom and pop store was like my fun time, I guess, because I was always home doing school anyway. So that's the only way it affected me, is like I didn't have an option to leave my house. But doing school, I mean, I've been doing it in my room on my computer for 4 years, so it's it wasn't really a change for me. But yeah, my mental health, it just, with school, it was fine. It's just my motivation, it wasn't there really, because I didn't get to go do things at least like once a day. But yeah, not much of a change.
All right. And maybe some people might not be in the same situation. So you said you've been going basically homeschooled and online for the past 4 years. So I'm sure you have a lot of uh, I guess a lot more experience than most people do as far as dealing with school online. So do you have any advice for anyone that might be struggling at the moment?
Yes, I do. I would say just keep a, because it was really hard for me. I mean, I went to school until my 8th grade year, and it's, even though I willingly made the decision to be homeschooled, I've always wanted to be homeschooled. It was still really difficult change and lifestyle change, because that was all I knew for most of my life. So it was difficult for me to keep my schedule and be responsible in that way, because I always had a teacher, over my shoulder. Oh my God, I'm sorry. And in person, like reminding the class like what we need to do. Um, so I would say just keep a general schedule for the day, take it day by day, and remember to do something that brings you joy, like a hobby. For me, it's reading, but do that thing at least for 15 minutes every day, because that's what's going to keep you grounded and sane in times like this.
Thank you. I think that's great advice. Justin, let's turn it over to you. How's the shift for college classes been?
To summarize it, it's been pretty easy, but it's definitely been different. As a college student, online learning proved to be somewhat of a double-edged sword. So like, given that it takes away having to fix yourself up, transporting yourself to be at a certain place at a certain time, dealing with all kinds of environmental issues that you may cross to get to your in-person classes. Um, Online classes, basically, you can just wake up a minute before class and uh, log in easily to your lecture and labs, right? Um, though, given that it is a double-edged sword, it also provides another level of responsibility with keeping yourself involved during your class times, participating in any way you can, and not just logging in and going back to sleep, because it's so easy. Say, like with what you said, your safe space becomes the workspace. So not having the divide between the two can really mess up your schedule. Growing up, I always heard my teachers say, "You are physically here, but mentally somewhere else." For the record, that wasn't addressed to me. That was to someone else. I just always heard everyone say that. But it was one of those lines that teachers said growing up. And with online class, that saying amplifies itself tenfold. It makes you that much more accountable for your habits moving forward. And honestly, at the end of the day, like Brandon, you know this, or all of you guys know this, an 8 a.m. class will always be an 8 a.m. class. It starts at 8 a.m. all the time, you know what I'm saying? But however, I have no complaints whatsoever regarding this transition, because thankfully I have the resources I need to succeed and excel. I have a roof over my head, I have working Wi-Fi, I have all of that, no complaints. And one thing I'd love to commend is the professors that are trying their best to teach the lessons that they're so, albeit not in the ways that they're traditionally accustomed to online. I actually just commend all the professors I've taken for, I know it's been a rough year for them as well, not only for us, but for the teachers as well, having to learn how to use new programs and just associate themselves with all of that with the transition. They have just been so amazing and patient. Advice, like I said earlier, I think the best advice I can give to someone struggling with a shift would be to assign a work area in your living space dedicated to getting things done. This means maybe an area isolated from distractions that your home may have. And honestly, just make the best out of the situation and the experience, because it may not last long. It may just transition to in-person classes again. So just enjoy it while it lasts, right?
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. Um, and like you were saying, I like that you kind of give a shout out to the professors. So shout out to all you teachers out there, because just like the students now, this is all new to them. Um, and this shift has been kind of crazy for everybody. So just know that we're all in this together. I know Ursian was having a bit of internet troubles. So her response was that school's kind of been hard for her, being online and not being face to face, because she's usually used to being in front of her teacher, right? And I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to school, but I'm sure many other students are kind of feeling that way, and um, interacting not with just their classmates, but their teachers as well. It was part of their normal day-to-day routine and how they, you know, engaged in learning. So trying to engage with their teacher, again, through a screen. Um, some people may be like on a laptop or computer or a tablet. Some people, I'm sure, are probably going to school on a phone as well. So I can imagine how difficult that would be for all parties, right? So, we've talked a little bit about school. Um, I think one positive thing that came out of this past year is that people started to focus more on their mental health and well-being, right? So, like I said, my word for the past year has been introspection, and you guys have kind of all kind of talked to that a little bit about what you've been going through. We've all kind of had time to ourselves and to think about, our thoughts and our feelings, and just our mental well-being. We see everybody talking about the word self-care, uh, right? That's the word being thrown around nowadays, are a lot more often, is self-care. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Self-care isn't synonymous with self-indulgence or being selfish. All right, it's taking care of yourself so that you can be healthy both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it's self-care is really anything that allows you to do that. It allows you to be well, allows you to go to school, do your job, help and care for others, and you can do all the things you need to and want to accomplish in a day. So I think it's important to note that everyone manages their health in different ways. Everyone's self-care routine looks different. Um, I've seen people start new hobbies or dive more into their current hobbies, like maybe cooking or baking, music or art. Uh, it's been very nice to see. So, maybe so your self care looks like being more physically active. Maybe it's binge watching your favorite TV show or your favorite anime for the 12th, 13th time. Maybe it's implementing a routine sleep schedule or starting a gratitude journal. Self care and managing your mental health, again, looks different for everybody. And it's how we all kind of cope with the daily stressors that we have to deal with. And I'm curious to see how our youth and our young adult population have been handling it all. So, what are some of the best self care strategies that you guys have been using over the past year? What has been working for you? So I think Bella went first last time, so I'm gonna tap on Justin this time.
Okay. Just for the past year, I found that letting my emotions out in any way that I could was very important. Like you said, everyone copes differently. Um, you also noted that it doesn't mean being selfish, but sometimes I feel that being selfish is very necessary for your mental health as well. And that means getting or taking time to yourself, getting away from a lot of people, um, just maybe deloading from the stress that social media has sometimes, because you know that every day a lot of the youth nowadays, they spend most of their times on their phones. A good way de- um of self-care is to just put your phone down and just enjoy whatever you have in front of you and not through the screen. But more importantly, I found that letting my emotions out in any way that I could was very important. As a male, we're expected not to show emotion, bottling up our feelings, being a man basically, and giving into the stigma that men should not give in to what they feel. With everything that's going on, what's worked for me was to confront what I feel, and in doing so, process how I felt. This led to me getting to know myself better and learning how to communicate better. Um, Learning how to reach out when I need to, utilizing, like I said before, utilizing the resources we have on island, like the crisis hotline, um, and just knowing that someone will always be there for me to help, even if it's just like a lending ear to listen. And yeah, Bella, what about you?
For me, I used to think that self-care was like about superficial things like skincare and stuff. That's what you always see on social media is like, drink water. And you should drink water, but not just for your skin. But it's always like those like basic things you always see on like Twitter and like it's always about your skin and how you look on the outside. And that's what I always associated self-care with in my head. But this past year, like I've grown so much, and one of the things I realized that self-care is literally anything that brings you joy, that makes you feel like rejuvenated and happy again, and it grounds you. And so for me, I went from like, and self-care, like I mean skincare is self-care, like it's nice to do, it's calming, and it's like your me time, I guess, in the day. But for me, it went from that was my self-care. Now it's my spiritual practices is my self-care now. I look forward to those things every day, like meditating, grounding outside in nature. I've been trying to get into yoga and those are the things that make me happy and make me care for myself, and that makes me feel good on the inside, and therefore I feel like it makes me look better on the outside. So yeah, I just think people need to prioritize their inner self more than their outer self, and like check in with their mental health more in that way. And yeah, my self-care is my spiritual practices. Sorry, I just get really happy when I talk about it.
No, don't apologize. That's great to see. Uh, we've all had a lot of time on our hands to really, uh, you know, find and do what makes us happy or what we enjoy. So, if you guys did, like, are there any hobbies that you guys have kind of started doing or that you wouldn't have necessarily started if you didn't have all this extra time that the pandemic kind of gave us?
Having a part-time job and being a full-time student, I don't really have that much time to myself most of the time. But I've really gotten into like my thrifting. So I like thrifting at the Salvation Army or anywhere on Guam that they have thrift stores in. Um, yeah, that gave me the time to de-stress there. Finding things that I like, finding things that other people would like, and yeah, that's what my de-stressing would look like. Self-care would look like at the thrift store.
How about you, Bella?
Um, I've been getting into like art recently, and I've always been interested. It's so pretty. Like art in any form is so beautiful, and I've always appreciated it and wanted to get into different art forms. But I was never really good at those things. Honestly, like I like to write, and also I've been taking time to write, so that's my hobby. But I realized that you don't have to be good at something to enjoy doing it. So I've been like getting into drawing and painting, and like canvases are very expensive, but you know what? It's really fun, and it doesn't matter if it comes out pretty and like Picasso like. It's just yeah, I've been painting a lot. It's really nice to see where it's also like it helps me see where my mental health's at, like whenever I start painting. So yeah, just sketching, writing, painting has just been what I've been doing lately.
The world is your canvas, Bella. And they're
Yeah.
also at Ross too, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of new, I guess I would call them, say, creatives would be the word that we use now, kind of emerge from this extra time that we've had. A lot of people have been just kind of expressing themselves in a variety of different ways, and it's been awesome to see. And people have been doing some amazing work, and even those that aren't sharing their work, I'm sure they're doing amazing work too. And I think it's really important, Bella, what you said, how you don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. And so whether that's, drawing or playing music, dancing, um, I don't know, playing sports, whatever it is that you want to do or that you enjoy doing, like you don't have to be good at it to do it. Um, yeah.
What about you, Brandon? What's your self-care routine look like?
What does my self-care routine look like? All right.
Yeah. What are you good
So
at and not good at?
well, there's a lot I'm not good at, so we won't talk about that. But the past year, you know, the past year has really allowed me to dive more into my current hobby, which is photography. It's something uh, that I started maybe I would say 7 months before the pandemic actually started. So it was something I was already doing. Uh, but then the pandemic started and I had a lot of time to do it. I would go outside and just kind of practice. And so that's really helped me and my mental health. And I've had a lot of fun doing it and I'm still having a lot of fun doing it. Also, I've tried to reconnect with my youth. Uh, so back in the day in high school, I used to skate or skateboard. So this past year, I've also kind of retaken up that hobby. My body hates it, but emotionally, I love it. It's such a blast.
And there has been a resurge of like in the skating community as in there with like the GU 1000 guys. Those guys are that's a good community that's like bringing back the skating community, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of that's what I've been noticing is that like with all these new not new but like these different hobbies and creative routes that we're going to, there's all these different communities on the island that we're kind of
Mm,
that I've kind of discovered, and I'm sure many others have kind of discovered. You know, you think like you're alone in like photography or skateboarding, for example, but I've been
mm,
introduced to so many people just through doing those things this past year, and it's really helped. It's been awesome to kind of connect with people that I've never met before and build those kind of relationships. Um, so I think that's a great thing to kind of do over the pandemic. You know, maybe reach out. You might find maybe if you like baking, maybe there's a baking community out there, and that's how you can kind of connect socially and not feel so alone during times like this. I think that's been pretty cool to see.
it's also a good form of
Brandon,
income. It's a new form of income.
sorry.
No, go for it.
Brandon, are you swelltography on Instagram?
I,
I've
I
seen
Shout out, bro.
I wasn't going to. I don't normally plug myself in stuff like this,
This is your
especially when it's
moment,
work.
Brandon.
So I can neither confirm nor deny.
you're really good. I've seen your stuff. So nice.
He's being humble.
Thank
He's
you. I
very good.
appreciate it. All right. So let me take this time and see if we have any questions kind of from our audience. Um, all right. So I guess first question we have here, what are some of the most important lessons that you've learned this past year that will help you moving forward? So I'll leave that one open, whoever wants to take that. Oh, sorry, wait, before we started, Ursian shared on the chat as she doesn't really have time for herself because she's been busy with school and having to do so many things. But she really enjoys playing volleyball and enjoy cleaning because that's when I can think of things that I would do or like think of things that I did before. Yeah, and I think we can all kind of attest to that. You know, no matter what it is that we're doing, or I mean, you know, even if we're so busy and caught up with life and school and work, when we do have times to really do the stuff that we enjoy, it's great for our mental health. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, we'll move on to that question. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned from this past year that will help you moving forward?
One thing that I learned in the past year, it was kind of like a lesson brought to us because we were put under the circumstances, is that alone time is very necessary. Like time in isolation, is very important for not only you but your like your soul. Trying to figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you think is funny, what you think is not funny. Um, just figuring yourself out basically. Um, that's what you find when you're by yourself, like when you're not relying on other people's opinions, relying on other people to do something for you, to do something with you. That's something that you really double down on when you're by yourself. um another That's another form of self-care, doing what you need to do by yourself, doing what you can do by yourself.
Yeah, it sounds great. What about you, Bella?
I agree with Justin on that. Like, although I've been homeschooled, I was still involved in other things and I still had other responsibilities and I never really like was ever really alone a lot. But and if I was always on social media and stuff. So I never had like time with my mental, like with my in my I was never in my head as much as I was like during the March quarantine last year. And it's really like it gave me some time to get to know myself again. And I feel like it's really important to know yourself and figure out what like what you truly want in life. That's what I've learned, is that a lot of the times what we want is what we think we want or what we've heard other people like oh, you should do this in life and stuff like that. So personally, the one thing I've learned is that most of the things that I thought I liked in life and stuff like that, that wasn't really, they weren't my thoughts or my opinions. They were everybody else's voices in my head. And so I think it's important to figure out whose voice you're hearing in your head. And that's the lesson I've learned, honestly, these past few months is like, is it really you? And are those your thoughts and your opinions?
Yeah, I think that's great. Like we've said before, like we've all had a bunch of alone time now to really kind of look within and you know think about what's most important to us and what we do like and what we don't. And I was worried for our youth for a second because when you're young, that's the time where you're on this path to kind of self-discovery. You know, who are you? Who do you want to be? And not, you don't want it to be who are people telling you to be. Um, so it's good to hear that now, now that we have this time alone, maybe you have more time to look within and really kind of figure out, what your identity is. I think that's really strong. So thank you for sharing.
And if I could add one more thing, I
Yeah.
feel that in the past year, one thing that I learned is to work on the relationships that you have with people. Um, like I said, like before, not everything is promised, so you don't really know what will happen to the relationships with with the people that you have around you. Sometimes you feel that people are there for you, people are friends with you, but usually it's only because you guys see them like on a daily basis. So basically, what I'm saying is a water the plants that flower. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, work on your relationships basically. Keep those around you that are there for you and love you.
Yeah, great words of advice. So we have another question that's come in. What would you say to those of us who have seen our parents, friends, and family members go through depression for the first time? Uh, what do you do when everyone's worried all the time? So I think this is a very tough topic, but necessary to talk about because now that we've been at home, or that everyone's been at home for the past year, we've kind of seen people struggle. Those that we normally don't see struggle. So what would you say to them?
I think first and foremost, oh sorry, go ahead, Bella.
Okay, so this is a little personal, but I'm comfortable talking about it. I've dealt with mental health issues for most of my life. I'm okay now, but I've dealt with depression and dealing with it firsthand. I just always wanted somebody to reassure me and for people to check in with me genuinely and like and privately as well. Um, but just be there for those people and reassure them that you're there and you're always going to be there for them and give them resources, motivate them, try to make sure that they're not letting themselves slip into it as much and make them, or not make them, but suggest that they go and do things that they love and their personal hobbies, because that's really the only thing that kept me like happy-ish through that really hard time. But what do you do when everyone's worried all the time? um I think we just all have to be there for each other, check in with each other. I've been doing that a lot with my loved ones and like sending them messages of appreciation. Like I realized I didn't do that as often when I could see them in person. So now I'm always calling people and like I'm expressing love, and it's kind of difficult, especially if you don't like to be vulnerable. But I think now we all kind of realize that we have to do that, and it's important to say that you care about your loved ones. So just reassure people and let them know that you're there for them.
Yeah, I think that's great. We never know uh, truly what other people are going through. Some people can wear a mask, and you will never know what's going on behind that. So I think it's important to kind of reiterate what you were saying to just kind of reach out to your friends, your family, your loved ones. Just give them a call, give them a text. Hey, how's everything going? Check up on them from time to time because I'm sure you appreciate it too when they check up on you. Right? What about you, Justin?
I think just to add on to what both of you guys were saying, it's very important to be there for the people that need you or the people that don't need you. Not even just like because of COVID, but it's kind of getting deep. But we have been wearing masks our whole lives. We portray someone that we want people to think that we are. So that doesn't necessarily come off as I'm okay, I'm fine. Just because someone carries the burden well doesn't mean it's not heavy, you know? So again, like what you guys said, always be there for them. Always make a presence known that you're there for them, that they're not alone. And if they do need it, seek further help, like further professional help. Um, and if you don't have the training to do so, you can refer to the other resources such as the crisis hotline that we have at the Guam Behavioral Health. And yeah, just be there for them. When everyone's worried all the time, you just have to, I mean, I'm sure that you're going to be the one that's worried too, but sometimes it takes just one person to be that optimistic side and light everyone up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That everyone
definitely.
that everyone can turn to, and even just like a little spark will help everyone.
No, I totally agree, and I want to thank you guys for kind of sharing um, everything that you've shared, especially with that last question. Uh, so let's see, we have a little bit more time. I think we'll take one or two more questions now. So I have another one here for you guys. So a lot of like the effects of the pandemic is, that we've talked about are like what's happening now and like a lot of these short-term effects. But I don't really see anyone talking too much about the long-term effects of the pandemic. So I'm curious to see what you guys would think the long-term effects would be on mental health of the youth and young adults. What are you most concerned about?
Oh wait, have I been unmuted this whole time? I'm so sorry. Um, oh my God. Okay, I'm just concerned about people developing like depression and anxiety. Like I, as someone who dealt with those things, it's really hard to get out of. It's like so difficult to get out of, and especially depression. It's really difficult. And I just don't want anyone to slip into those things, and I hope that everyone like checks in with themselves and uses the resources that people are providing for them. But that's what I've been worried about a lot, especially with like I've in my personal life I've seen like my friends say that they've started to get anxiety and they never dealt with it before, and they come to me for advice of how to cope with it. And it's just really I just worry about them. Like that's so sad that you were okay, and then because of everything that is happening you develop this thing that's really difficult to deal with. And I'm just worried about everybody else developing those I have mental illnesses. I know it's kind of like a harsh term, but it's their mental illnesses, and I don't know. I'm just worried about people dealing with that. It's not fun at all.
No, that's definitely a great concern to have. What about you, Justin?
I'm just going off of what Bella says. Um, the term anxiety has been thrown around a lot nowadays, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I feel that now that our generation has more attention towards mental health issues, we do have a better platform to dealing with them. You know what I'm saying? Um, our generation will be more knowledgeable so that we break the stigma for the next generation that being or mental health is important, but going through these things is okay. Like it's very normal. Um, we will have the our generation will have the knowledge to helping them, and because we've gone through it basically. So that's a long term thing for me. And yeah, that's just my thing. It's just to break the stigma and to be the better generation for the generation ahead
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I also want to share Ursian had messaged one of the most important lessons that she's taken from the past year. Um, I learned that it can be hard for people to go through things like this, especially when you lose loved ones, and it takes time to move on. But you can always talk to someone that would understand where you're coming from. But now I can move on because I was able to talk to someone. And I think that's important, that there's always going to be someone that you can talk to or someone that you can kind of reach out to. And if you ever feel like there isn't, just know that you can always call our crisis hotline. Um, they're always there 24/7 available to just kind of be there for you, especially when you feel like someone can't or that no one else can be, right? And we have one last question before we close for today. So what's your message to the adults in the leadership roles in schools, government, private businesses who may be listening to this conversation? How can they continue or better support youth like yourself? Justin, you want to take that one?
No, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, no problem.
I was
So
just trying
the
to
question is,
read it in
and
the
this will be
comments.
our last question before we close out.
Mm,
What's your message to the adults in the leadership roles in schools, government, and private businesses who may be listening to this conversation? How can they continue or better support youth and young adults like yourself?
I think a good message to the adults is that we see that you are trying. Like we know that you are doing your best, and that we're all we're all together in this. Basically, you're not doing this just because you're you're tasked upon it, but like we see that you are doing what you can, and in any way we would like to help in any way that we can. I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
How can they continue to or better support youth like yourself?
I'm gonna have to think about that one. Maybe Bella, what do you think?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, like Justin has like been showing his appreciation for teachers. My mom's a teacher. My Nina is a teacher. Like a lot of my loved ones are teachers, and I feel like they're not appreciated as much, and they're underpaid. But that's another conversation. But I just wanted to like say that I appreciate all teachers, and you guys do so much work and put so much effort and love into your job. But um and I don't go to school, like I'm on an online school, but I think you can support the students and the youth at the moment is like being aware of the workload, because my friends have been like, I've seen my friends like cry about how much work they're getting, and I know like I know all teachers are doing their best, but please be aware that other teachers are probably giving like a lot of work as well, and to kind of check in with your students and ask them how they're doing with the workload and how they're doing with the work in general, because it can get overwhelming. And I've just seen my friends struggle a lot with that, and I just would like to say that for them. But I know teachers are doing their best, and I appreciate you guys, and I don't want to offend anybody, but just be aware of how much you're giving students, because they also have a lot of other teachers and a lot of other things. I'm a senior, my friends were applying for colleges and stuff like that. So we have other things going on basically. So please just check in with your students and have a good conversation about their mental health and the workload. So
No, definitely. I think that's very important. So thank you for sharing that. Justin, I'm come back to you. Did you anything on that last part of the question?
No, I think Bella got it on that last part. Just, just taking everything into consideration, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's how you help. That's how you help. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you all for sharing your unique experiences with us. It's been an honor to kind of meet you guys and converse with you all on this topic. So before we go, in one sentence, I'd like you to give a piece of advice to your peers who may be struggling during this time. All right, time's up. Justin, what do you have to say?
You are not alone, basically. You're not alone in anything that you do. There will always be someone there for you. There's always someone behind you. There's always someone in front of you. Always one side to you, the other side as well. Um, Again,
Yeah,
you're not alone.
that's great. Thank you. How about you, Bella?
Um, everything will be okay. Just take it day by day. Oh my god, that rhymes, but I didn't mean for it to rhyme. But yeah, that's my advice.
Bars.
Yeah.
And uh, I guess my sentence would be I mean, I want to do two sentences, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Um, it's okay to not be okay. I think that's something very important to kind of stress across all ages that sometimes it's okay to not feel okay. That's normal. And then the next sentence would be that there is help and there is hope. So if you're ever feeling stressed, anxious, and you don't know who to turn to or where to turn to for help, um, just know that you guys can always reach out to our 24/7 crisis hotline at 647-8833 or 8834. So again, those numbers are staffed 24/7, and we have people ready to listen to you and talk with you. All right. So again, that number, because it is important, 647-8833 or 8834. To our wonderful audience, thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us at Peace. If you have any other questions or comments after this episode, you are able to forward them to staff@peaceguam.org. So I'll say that again, staff@peaceguam.org. Please also share with us your feedback on today's episode in the evaluation survey that will follow once you end this Zoom session on your device. We hope you'll join us again next month. So, bye, guys. Have a good one.